This is the Coming Home Podcast with John Allen. Sure.
All right.
Cursing is allowed, and we are live. Welcome, everybody, to this episode of the Coming Home Podcast with John Allen. I am your host, John Allen, and this is going to be a real interesting conversation. It's a conversation I've been looking forward to for the last couple of weeks. This is Mr. Robert Gillan. How you doing, Robert?
Hey, everybody.
And as we were saying, cursing is allowed on this podcast. Everybody can say whatever the heck they want. If it's too much or if I disagree, then I disagree. And if it gets to be too much, I'll tell you so.
I feel you.
You have a really interesting Facebook page. There has been both a lot of activity on it and very little activity. By very little activity, I mean there's very few videos. But the videos that you have on there have really blown up. The one that I am most impressed with, I haven't even seen the whole thing yet, and we were just talking about it before the mic went live, was your interview with Jane Elliott.
Gotcha.
For those who don't know, shame on you. But
For sure.
But Jane Elliott is one of the people out there who has done the most work in modern times, since the late 60s, and still going strong today with educating people about racism, educating people about some of the false assumptions that people have when you see people say things like integration does not need to be a focal point in America today. Jane Elliott will tell you not only that you're wrong, but she'll tell you how wrong you are.
Absolutely, bluntly, right.
But she also says what is being done correctly. And she tells you how to do things correctly. That is so impressive. And throughout this conversation, you and I are probably going to disagree on a lot of things, but one thing we can...
We already did before.
Sure. But one thing we can agree on is the value of the words that Jane Elliott has.
Absolutely.
Talk about your conversation with her. I want people to go to your YouTube channel after they listen to this and go listen to your conversation with Jane Elliott. Tell us about it.
Well, first off, I want to thank you. I want to thank you, John, on invite me to this podcast. I didn't even know you were podcasting until you made a comment underneath one of the interviews I've done and that you've done previously.
Yeah.
So I didn't realize you've been doing it for a while yet, and I see that you've been growing as well, and you got a quite interesting cast of characters too that you interviewed. Well,
thank you for that. Thank you for that.
And also on the NRCO feature this weekend, which I saw, that was pretty good. I learned some things about you too that I didn't know, and we can get into that later.
Yeah.
So Jane Elliott, I how that came about was I basically was looking because I'm a part of also, I think we might also be part of the same group, possibly, some anti-racist groups or whatnot. And some of my anti-racist groups are majority white.
Yes.
And sometimes it in those groups, they tend to have a lot of liberal views or whatnot, but not from people that kind of can just, I don't know, say how it is or whatnot, and put things bluntly. Yeah. And especially out here, some Norwegians or whatnot, they're not used to seeing a white lady speaking that strongly against racism in the way that Jane Elliott does. And
she certainly has a unique style, certainly.
Right. And so that, and I remember the blue eye, brown eye exercise, as she likes to call it.
Very effective.
I remember that growing up, on TV. Matter of fact, she was the only guest that I had that I haven't found online. She was actually on TV. Yeah. She's been around that long. So, probably the end of high school, I've heard of her, when I graduated high school, went into the military because I was in the Air Force. I can get into that later. So I just remembered her exercises, and I got reintroduced to her through a guy, Philip Shock Matthews, You heard of him, correct?
Yes, I have.
Yeah, and he brought out Jane Elliott, Robin DiAngelo, and Jacqueline Badalore, who I also interviewed. That's on my YouTube channel. And speaking of my YouTube channel, it's
Say the name of it. Say it.
DaRealNordicBlack.
That's
D-A.
DA.
Yeah, DaRealNordicBlack. The Real Nordic Black. So for some of you who would wish to go and check out some of my interviews.
And again, I highly recommend that people do that. All of my listeners, all of my viewers, I recommend that you go and check out Robert's YouTube page, The Real Black. The Real Nordic Black. The Real Nordic Black. Go and check it out. There's not a lot of content on there yet, but the content that is there, that is there is amazing. And I know there's more coming. You know, you're on a roll. You got to keep going, man.
There's more coming, and also you said some interesting things that's so very true. I don't have that much content, although because there was a big gap, as you've seen. There was I have 2 or 3 videos that were like 6 years ago.
Yeah.
It was because about 6-7 years ago, I actually started this YouTube channel. And I always kind of jokingly say I was the pioneer of this. I was the first person that spoke about race on YouTube in particular, about racism in Norway or being black in Norway. Because there was nobody else doing, that said that, not doing it. Of course, there were celebrities, singers, and artists that were here long before me. That were.
But you were the first to have a significant video on YouTube that got a lot of views. Yeah, hats off to you for that.
Definitely. And I wish I would have kept it up there. It was that it had over close to 30,000 views at the time, but it had so many. It had a lot of dislikes, likes, and it was. I mean, I had got a lot of flack and a lot of hate. I mean, it was raw, undiluted. I mean, I'm watching some of my words how I talk now. I cleaned up my act a little bit, but I still have some of that original essence that I had.
Be yourself and speak how you want.
I feel you. And at that time, I kind of I clearly, I didn't think I was really going to nobody was going to watch it. Nobody was going to see it. It all started with, I was married, so I'm divorced now, but my ex-wife, she, I was just sitting around talking about certain issues, whether it's politics or whatever in Norway and the States. And so one day she was just like, I'm tired of hearing about that racism all the time. You always talk about this and talk about that. And she was just like, why don't you go talk to somebody who like cares, basically. Why don't you go talk to YouTube or something,
Yeah.
Have some sort of outlet, some place to vent. And I was like, man, whatever. And so I didn't really think nothing much of it. And then I don't know. At some point, it just rung a bell, and then I was like, well, let me try to see what this stuff is all about.
Yeah.
And I was looking to see if there was anybody in Norway that has spoke about or against racism, and I Googled, did my research, and I saw some tweets by some people. And of course, the historic female group, they spoke against, I forgot the name of it, the Norwegian group. Mostly everybody knows the name. I think it's the 3 women that, they do tremendous work, on talking about racism. I had got a book that dealt with something that they spoke about published by Routledge in the past. But anyhow, I can't recall their names. But like I said, there was people that spoke against racism, but not on YouTube.
Right.
There was none far as black person is concerned, period. Not just African American, but black person. And so I just said, well, why not? So then I went in there, and definitely there was a horde of people that didn't like my approach and how I said things and things like that. Matter of fact, I had threats. I also had threats.
Did you? Okay.
Most definitely. At the time, I wasn't living in Oslo. So when I first came to Norway in 2012, when I first came, we stayed on in Gamle, Oslo, on Sveigårdsgata for about, I say, 6 months.
Yeah.
Maybe less. And then we moved to where my ex-wife's family's from, in Sätra, Buskerud-fylke. Not Sätra with the cookies. Every time I said I live in Sätra, they always talk about, oh, you live in that town where the cookies.
Sätra in Hudum, right?
In Hudum, excuse me, but Buskerud-fylke.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
In Hudum Kommuna.
I lived in Hudum. That's where I first went to.
And that's what I learned too about you. But I don't think you were there when I was there, though.
No, I was only there for a couple of years until we moved up to Finnmark. Yeah,
I figured that because and the reason I say that because I was kind of heavily into the coaching basketball as well, and I swear I was probably the only African American in that damn near that whole area.
We definitely would have gravitated to each other because there just aren't any black people out there.
There's just aren't. I mean, I'm not the only one. Let me take it back because I found out there was a couple of guys, but they were really quiet. You know what I mean? Older than me or whatever. But for the most part, you would have heard. I even ran into a YouTuber and a white American guy in Sätra. When we both walked in the Nara Center in Kiwi, we recognized each other from YouTube videos, man. It was weird, but definitely we would have gravitated towards each other, or somebody would have said something. Hey, there's another, there's another African American living over there.
By 2004 we were gone. We lived there the first about the first 18 months or so when we came to Norway. Yeah.
And that was my old stomping ground.
Yeah.
So I was there. So I was there for the first 4.5 years.
Okay. But let me ask you this: what were people hating on? What was their what did they pick out as controversial to hate on your videos?
If I can remember, they didn't even get into conversation. They were just like saying names, like saying nigger and monkey and hateful things. And then there were some contention with certain black people, some Somalis, of course, or whatever. And that's another subject and other things. But for the most part, as far as black people are concerned, I got a good feedback from them, a good amount of support. And in fact, one of the reasons why I do what I do now and continue to do that, because there was a guy that had sent me a message, I believe in his late teens, young guy up north, and I believe he was mixed, and he was saying that some of the information that let me take it back. I had about 100-something videos myself back then.
Okay.
I had about 100-something videos, and at the time, so let me go back. I got ADD, bro. So y'all whoever tune in, y'all gonna have to follow me, man.
Hey, we have time.
I ain't like them other dudes who didn't,
Hey, my viewers and listeners settled in for the long haul, so they're with you, man. They're with you.
No doubt. But anyway, so where was I at? No, so okay, so I had about probably about 100 videos, and I talked about different historical characters that were in black people that were in Europe or whatnot, from Pushkin to Bodin in Sweden, and a bunch of other characters in Iceland, about the book The Man Who Stole Himself. Anyway, and then slavery in Norway and things like that. Leif Svalesen, the guy that pretty much the diver that discovered the slave ship, the Fredensborg.
Right.
So I had that book. I have that book on the shelf, and I had that, and things like that. So that's the stuff I was kind of talking about, and also racism and issues. In my experience with racism in Norway, and also when I went, on Harrytur in Sweden, and also on little vacations in Denmark, and just the experiences that I had. So it was just a bunch of that, and then also just things that I seen that I noticed.
So the people that were hating on this, they were just people who wanted to push back against your personal account of what it means to both observe and possibly feel racism yourself. And isn't that quite often the go-to reaction to I don't want to say all Norwegians, but a lot of them can't really handle the truth of the situation with racism here in Norway.
Most definitely. Because it's not in your face, and and I told him, don't worry about the labels, cast the labels aside,
forget that, and just deal with the issue and have the discussion, right?
Right. And let's Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. says, let's talk about just change those words into unfairness, and if you're like in a scenario, if you're at work, lunchtime comes, you go into the break room and you see everybody sitting on one side, and you see the little black guy sitting all on his lonely by himself. At some point you can call it, you can say nobody in there is racist or nobody's, it's a label and it's a word in a lot of ways that people try to kind of.
Well, yeah, there's racism, which is a thing in itself, but racism. I was just gonna say racism isn't the only problem when it comes to. It's just not the only thing that needs to be dealt with. There's also exclusion. There's also misogyny. There's also prejudice. Yeah. But I think that a lot of those things can be broken down. I think even racism itself can be broken down and done away with in individual circumstances through awareness, and that awareness comes through discussion, because a lot of people who hold on to a racist ideology, they just don't know anything else. They've been taught that from the day they were born.
I agree with you.
They've lived that every second of their life, and they have yet to have had a discussion with someone about their racism. And
but it is systemic, though.
Absolutely, it's systemic.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So in order for it to be systemic, it's more than an individual.
Exactly. But on the individual basis, I always say, I was just saying to my wife today, I'll never give up.
That's all you can tackle. I mean, that's the only way you can tackle things. You start out individually.
And what I was saying to my wife today is, I will never give up on a racist, because I do believe that there's a lot of them out there that just need to be spoken with. They need to get a little bit of enlightenment. They need to talk to a black man or a black woman.
Good point. Yeah. No, I mean, sometimes, I've experienced and told people, I was like, sometimes I'd rather be back down south, you know what I'm saying, with those in your face, overt racism than the racism that's, hidden deep in the closet, things like that. At least you know where he's coming. You know what I mean?
Norway
and things like that. And like you said, once you actually talk to him and have a discussion, you realize that a lot of his anxiety and fear and things that they learned from their parents and their grandparents, and then you realize we're all the same kind of people. You know what I mean? Like we all had the same struggles. We all were worrying about this and that, and something might have happened with their daughter. Some guy might have did this, and what have you. So that's me. We had, me growing up. It was real in my family. That's what a lot of Norwegians don't realize. Like especially African Americans, when we talk about racism, we really seen like for real. Like my mother, she won a class action suit because of racism or discrimination. You know what I mean? To the point that that's how we got a car at one time, because of the money from that. So that's a real thing, tangible thing that happened. And also we were about to go to court because of this redlining that they had, the housing discrimination.
Where was this in the States?
Oklahoma. When my father was in the Army. So I have my background, we all over the place, but I'm going to try to remember to go back and forth. So my background, military brat. My father was in the Army for over 20 years. My grandfather was as well. My father was born in Mobile, Alabama. Like I said, we traveled around the U.S. I lived in Germany for about 9 years, from one side of Wiesbaden, Germany, to Wilflicken, Germany. That's by Würzburg. And Louisiana, we were stationed in. We were stationed out there in Fort Lewis, Washington, and things like that. And then retired and went back to the first bit where he did his like basic training in at Fort Sill, Oklahoma. So that's the reason why we end up out there.
Okay.
He retired out there, but the thing is, he met my mother in Fort Sill, Oklahoma. My mother's father, my grandfather, he was in the Army. So, and he retired from the Army, and he retired there. He's from New Orleans. So my mother's side of the family, both of her parents are from New Orleans. But my grandfather was in the Army, retired there in Oklahoma. He figured it was safe there, and he had things going on. He trained pilots, things like that, and he also started a business. He was the first black businessman there. He was into radio signal and electric radio signal and whatnot.
Interesting.
So he used his hands, and he had started a Matthew TV sales and service or whatever.
Yeah.
And he was also involved in the council and stuff like that.
Okay.
And so he kept the newspapers, like the first black businessman and the first black guy to be doing the council there. So
that's some real history in your family.
Right. And he was also training pilots and stuff like that. And by way of New Orleans, so he was born and raised in New Orleans, along with his wife, my grandmother, who's passed. May she rest in power.
Amen.
So I got a lot of family on that side. In fact, my grandfather's sister's son used to be mayor of New Orleans 2 terms.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yep. His name is Sidney Bartholomew.
Okay.
Sidney Bartholomew, Creole, correct?
Yes.
So it goes. Actually, Brian Gumble. You heard of Brian Gumble?
Of course, yeah.
He's related to us as well.
Okay.
So that's another thing. But go ahead.
I have to ask you this, because you had Trisha on your YouTube, and you interviewed Trisha. She's from New Orleans. Do you guys have any? Did she know any of the people?
I haven't looked. I wouldn't be surprised if we found some family members that were connected or related. I would not be surprised.
Because New Orleans, of course, is a big city, but in a lot of ways it's small. And people know people there. People know. So I thought about that,
For sure. No. I really think that we could definitely have some sort of family connection, of some sort, possibly. You never know. And that was the main reason why, because it was like a home connection when I saw her. And then also the age group, I was like, you know what I mean? I was like, this lady is still touring, and the music that she does, and she just gets that feeling, you know what I mean?
That is exactly what drew me to her in the first place. Right. I can't remember exactly. Maybe I met her through one of the American groups here.
Because entertainers. I don't mean to cut you off, because entertainers to me, you saw my YouTube channel. I was kind of more into the historians and getting to the root of racism and things like that. Also into religion and things like that. But I was like, I'm gonna, if I do put up some entertainers, it has to mean something to me. So I'm not gonna get I don't need to have a young gun. I you know what I mean? Something that kind of, and so she was somebody I had to get. You know what I mean?
You and I think a lot alike, because that's exactly the same reason why I pulled her into my little thing that I do here. It's that it's her longevity in the music business, and also that she managed to keep her music career going, if not even blow up even more since she's been here in Norway. And I think it's beautiful. I think she is one of my favorite people that I've ever had on. She's so much fun.
Mine too. And I don't think she really realizes that.
She doesn't. She's so humble.
Right.
She's so humble.
And she really does, because she does the cooking now, and you can just see. I like her vibrance and things.
And she started painting now.
Painting and all that, cooking, e-cookbook, and things like that. I'm like, bro. And I even told some of these guys that I know, I was like, that I know that are entertainers and stuff that I know. I was like, man, this lady is running circles on some of y'all, man. She's still doing she's doing what she can. Yeah. And it's pretty tough being an African American out here in Norway. And she's doing churches, this and that. She's really doing what she can. And then to have that little tea time, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, a month, I forget what day. And then she does it with the guy in New Orleans.
She's got a real good live stream. For anybody watching or listening, I should link to it. I think I'll link to it when I post this episode, because she's something else. Yeah.
So that just home time feeling. Yeah. And also because I wanted my family to see, like, if because I know some of them check it out. They'll check out this interview, I'm sure. And there's somebody from New Orleans out here, and and I also know another brother. He's from Louisiana. not from New Orleans, but close enough. Tony. I don't know if you heard of him. He called himself Tony Sweet.
No, I haven't heard of.
He's right. He's on my Facebook friend. He actually owned a restaurant down in Caribbean.
Okay.
Right, and a lot of people know about him. He used to cook a lot for the people at the embassy, American embassy.
Oh wow!
So
wow.
he knows a lot of people there. He knows a grip of people. And that's kind of one of my definitely one of the few guys, the old timers that I ain't gonna call him old, you know what I'm saying? Because I'm not too far from him, so no disrespect, my man. But kind of like an uncle, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's Anyway, he has a restaurant. He had a restaurant, then it got flooded. And he also taught in Bergen in the cooking school at the high school and stuff like that. He did a lot of things. I mean, even he did some work for Yilda. Some of the flavors that you taste or whatever for certain burgers and stuff, he actually helped create. Wow. So there's a lot of things, and he's not the only one. There's other, like I said, he's a guy that. That's going to be definitely an interesting.
He sounds like one of those quiet sensations, He's out there making stuff happen, but people haven't really heard.
He's a sleeper, and there's other ones too out there.
Sure, absolutely.
There's other ones too out there. Like I said, the loudest ones aren't always the ones doing the most. I'm glad you said that. Say it for the people in the back. The loudest ones aren't always the ones doing the most.
There you
and
go.
I know I seem like I'm loud to a lot of people these days, but I assure you, I could have been a lot louder back in the day. Like I've spoken to him off air. I've been approached just by after my first video or two, I was approached by people to hold talks.
You mentioned some of those groups.
Yeah,
Say it. Let people know.
Grill. Grill. Not the Root. Comin, you heard of the Root, but Grill. There was the lady from the Grill one time reached out to me, and at the time her subscribership was not so high. It was probably like 1,000 or something like that, maybe less than 1,000. And I was like, but I didn't feel like really.
Now, is it because you had your own path?
I had my own path, and I was like, I don't feel like cleaning up my act for these people. And I was like, they're not going to want me once they really get to know me in a way, because I'm not, I'm just voicing my opinion. So that's how I really started out. I was just, like I told you, it was the ex-wife that was like, look, find somebody else that wants to hear your shit, basically. And I was like, okay. And at the time I was like, how am I going to, I don't know how this is going to go, because I haven't been there long enough to really know all the nuances and everything. So I might just get the whole, I don't know. Yeah. And so so some of my opinions have adjusted, of course, as I've been here longer, but some of them are still the same. Absolutely. Well, you're certainly reaching a lot of people with the videos that you have put out. You're certainly reaching a lot of people. So I can understand why an organization like, or at that time, the individual woman who was running the Griot would reach out to you. Right. And then there was a lady, she wrote a book. I did that interview by dictation. She's from Canada. She's written a book called, I forget, bro. I wish I remember the name. Because I told myself I'm not gonna be bringing out all this stuff, writing all this stuff down, because I'm being interviewed. Because usually I have all kinds of notes, and I do, take, how it is to do some research on the person you're about to interview, and I'm like, this time me being the interviewee, I'm just gonna chill out, and so. I can tell you though, sometimes I don't do. In fact, my research in general for my guests is just the curiosity that I have for them. Got you. And then the information, I'm learning as I speak to that person. Got you. Got you. I only know you from online. Right. And, but I mean, then I ran into your but I'm not YouTube. I'm not a historian or author though. You know what I'm saying? No, but you are a focal point for the sharing of history and knowledge on history and current events when it comes to social issues and racism. Right. That's what you are. I appreciate that. But my point, what I was trying to make was that I couldn't. Some of the people that I've interviewed, I couldn't totally go like that and do what you do with some of the authors and historians
I see.
that I reach out to. You get what I'm saying?
I see.
Because then I'm like, okay, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They have a book coming out, or so you have to do some kind of research on some of those.
Research is too much work.
I feel you, bro, and that's why I say exactly, and that's why I say I'm all by my lonely. I'm a one-man army, one-man team. As you see, how the videos are. I don't have no technical expertise.
No.
I don't even have a bachelor's degree. I got an associate's degree, and I got enough credits from so many majors I changed in my life to have a bachelor's degree.
Yeah.
But I don't have that, and so like I said, I've been doing this all on my lonely, and research is, I guess, it's my strong suit in a way.
Yeah.
I believe. Yeah.
Well,
I read a lot.
Yeah, so do I. I have to.
So a lot of these people that I interviewed were actually, I started out with people that I actually have books of that are on my shelf.
So then you've read something, some work that they've done. It's interested you, and then you just reach out. You just reach out to them, and boom, there's the discussion. Yeah,
absolutely. Like we're talking about racism. I got books on racism, like Birth of the Nation with Jacqueline Badalora. Who I've read, and then other people I've reached out to that haven't yet either back to me, or they were not able to do it because they're doing some research now, or it just caught in the fray because they're so
No, not everybody has time, but what I do find is that everybody that I ask, they have a genuine appreciation for it. I think people like to be recognized. People like to be heard. Absolutely. Yeah.
I learned a lot. I learned a lot through this. Every day I learned something new. I learned a lot. I mean, one of the things that I learned was, and I've mentioned that in one of my interviews, that it's so funny that sometimes you can reach out to people that are kind of locally popular in a way, or got some local celeb, and they will act like they so damn busy to get back with you, but then you'll have an international bestseller that will hit you up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like immediately.
Yeah.
And I remember I mentioned that to somebody in one of my interviews, and that person said, well, that's why that person, that local person you're talking about, is who they are right now.
That's right. No,
meaning that's why they ask the work ethic. They don't have the work ethic I do. You see?
Well, and not everybody appreciates. See, people
which is crazy about that. And people need to really know that. I'm telling you. And if I was to show you some emails by some big people, I'm talking about. I got an email. I'll name one person that sent me an email. Yeah. Louis Gates Jr.
Louis Gates.
No, what's his name? Louis Henry. Excuse me. No, not Louis Gossett Jr. Excuse me. Henry Gates. Henry Gates, that does the Henry Gates, that does the with the DNA test and the finding your ancestor.
That's right. Yes. 23andMe.
I don't know if it's 23andMe, but he has a show called Finding Your Roots or something like that.
That guy, gotcha. Yes.
Right.
Gates,
And so like, Henry Gates, he's like a professor in Ivy League school there, Harvard, or I believe. Yeah. And he's still out there. Mm-hmm. So like he, you know what I mean? Like he straight up personally, written. And then, like I said,
I think the people who genuinely appreciate, the people who are generally humble to be able to speak from whatever their platform is, those are the people who are the most genuine. I think there are a lot of locally known people who kind of get swollen with a little bit of arrogance.
Bro, it's like wow.
I've kind of seen the same thing. Although I respect a person's choice to come on my show or not.
No doubt.
But yeah, I guess my point is that when someone gets a platform from which they can speak, and when they start to be seen, I just hope they stay humble, because all that's going to do is cause them to be able to reach even more people. Humility will attract more people than arrogance. Absolutely.
Right, bro. Like you said, it's amazing. I've like I said, I learned a lot through these things, and sometimes So that was one thing. Yeah. So anyway, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, when you started making these videos, and you met a lot of backlash from people,
Yeah.
and the hate and
Yeah.
the threats and everything. Did
Absolutely.
it? How did that affect you? Because that kind of stuff, some people can brush it off, but some people get a little. Some
Right.
people, it can really
Right.
weigh
Well,
heavy on them.
Well, as you know me already a bit, I get a little testy, you know. So bro, one time I almost just straight snapped. You know what I mean? This guy was like, "Where you live?" And I was like, you know what I mean? I was like, bro, I almost wanted to be like, let's meet up over. You know what I mean?
Pay for his taxi to bring him to you.
You know what I mean? And then the ex-wife was like, "Yo, don't." You know what I mean? I was thinking about my son and things like that, and so I was like, "Nah, I can't do nothing." Like I almost got caught up in that mix there.
Yes.
And then, like I said, at that time, being the first person on YouTube to speak about racism, I knew I wasn't going to be popular like these gamers. Because back then, when it started, before the videos were monetized in Norway, it was just gamers, and people were keeping it safe. It was gamers and also beauty makeup tutorials.
Yes. Yeah.
Those were the two main things.
YouTube was a little different back then. Yeah.
There was no social commentaries at all.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And like after that, you know, within the span of a couple of years, then they started to be people that, black in Norway and had already knew how to technical expertise, knew how to do the videos and pretty videos, especially they're female too.
Yes.
And so, you know, most people, you know, females get a lot of attention. They're beautiful, and you know, and nothing wrong with that. But they tend to get a lot of their attention on YouTube. So with that being said, with the technical expertise and all of those things like that, knowing how to edit the videos and all that, and I didn't spend my time on it, you know, that wasn't my main thing. My thing was just, matter of fact, there was a lot of videos. I said about 100, but a lot of those videos in the beginning, I had my face and everything, but a lot of those videos, I just put like audio. I just spoke in the phone. Like, while I was, even when I was going to and fro work, I was just driving and spoke in the phone, audio, put up a picture and threw it up
and
there.
Just run with
and so that was real quick. It was just like me talking. I'm like literally in the cars passing by, and I'm like, hold up, but you know, so that's where a lot of them kind of, and so but no, I like spawned off. I said that before, but I like to see how it is now, and definitely now you have some lady that does. I remember somebody put up a video of blacks in Norway. I think the most views is this one lady that you probably know,
Dana Cole.
And she does blacks in Norway in one video, and then the rest of them is all fashion.
You're probably are you talking about Dana Cole?
I think so.
Dana Cole, she's a photographer.
Right.
And then
excuse me.
Yeah.
So that kind of and no disrespect, let's no disrespect and kudos to her. But the blacks, I was the first one in Norway to do that. And then she, like I said, I'm proud of that happened, but then I was looking for more content about, you know, being black, you know what I'm saying, or the things you go through. So that in a way it kind of told me, you know, that, okay, are some people doing it for analytics or algorithms or, you know what I'm saying, for popularity or whatnot, but because you're looking up for other material or
do you think
or things that kind of concord, you know.
You don't think that it's genuine if a black person who has because what I'm thinking,
think it's genuine.
Yeah, because
I think it's genuine now. I'm just saying that I was looking for. And I'm probably gonna get some flack on me saying that right now. Like Jane Elliott said, I ain't here for friends, to be honest with you. At the end of the day, don't get it twisted. I want you to like this video. I want you to subscribe my people on my Facebook channel or my YouTube. I don't know if I'm able to. Maybe I might post it on my YouTube. We'll see how that goes. But anyhow, I advise everybody to go to Coming Home.
The Coming Home podcast.
The Coming Home podcast with John Allen. And go to his channel.
Well, thank you.
Click subscribe, like this videos, and check out his other videos.
And thank you.
More intelligent people than me.
I don't know about that.
I'm just the guy that rolled out the bed and started speaking his mind and his truth
But to build you up.
Go ahead.
But to build you up a little, and I told you this over the phone before we went on the mic. I invited you on because your First, let me say this. Thank you. First, let me say this. Thanks for giving me a shout out, and I'm also going to give you a shout out. Number one, by having you on this episode, but I'm also going to link to your YouTube page. I want people to go
with a hyperlink.
Yes,
right?
Yes. I want people to go there and see what you're doing.
I got you.
Because you're doing important work. You're speaking directly on issues that need to be heard to people who need to listen. And so let me say that. But the reason I brought you on is because you're doing work that is, and it's like I say to all my guests, I bring you on because you motivate me, you inspire me, and there's something interesting about you. Now, having said that,
so do you with this podcast.
Well, thank you.
So do you, and things.
And I value discussion, and to me, a discussion doesn't mean that you have to agree with the person.
There we go.
I agree with just about everything you do, but I don't agree with everything. But that's okay.
No doubt.
So,
and we're a product of that, because we, as we spoke off air, and as we know, we had our disagreement, and some of the people on your Facebook were witness to that in some of the groups that we were in.
But look, it's just a disagreement.
Yeah, definitely. And so this is kind of a proof that you don't have to be, you don't have to agree all the time.
I guess the main reason why I brought you on was because of that disagreement. And then we're talking like 3 years ago, that disagreement happened
like
online.
I told you, I'm like an African elephant. I remember everything.
Yeah. And it's not like how can I say it? When I ran across your YouTube channel, I'm like, oh yeah. That's Robert. That's the guy I disagreed with. So seeing the content of your videos, plus the fact that we had that disagreement, told me, here's a guy who, it's a complex thing because we disagree, and yet I totally back the work you're doing. So there is the basis of a good conversation. So that was my thought, my motivation to ask you to come on to my podcast.
Got you. I thought about it when I first saw that. The first thing is, I remember the disagreement that we had in the past as well, and then obviously I subscribed to you as well, and we became friends on Facebook, and I was like, and I kind of joked and hinted at the time when you mentioned about people to interview. And I was like, me with a smiley face with a cheesy grin, and I was like, I'm gonna see what he gonna say. And then he was like, all right, let's do it, brother. And I was like, okay. I was like,
because it's plain and simple. I love I love a conversation, whether it's an agreeable conversation or a conversation that is based on a disagreement. Either way, there's something to be learned from having the discussion. And I think that disagreements on social media are there's so much so much
lost in a way,
tone of voice, the look on the face when things are said, eye contact, volume.
I start to realize that a lot more after we spoke on the phone, as I took that long walk from work and sweating my ass off. But
I thought you were going to cancel. I'll be straight up. I thought you were going to cancel.
Nah, bro. I just that was my thing. I figured that you probably thought that I get it, but no. I like to speak my piece, then whether I'm right or wrong, and then go from there. Yeah, that's it, bro.
And anyone that speaks their piece, should not. Regardless of what that piece is, regardless of that. The content of that message, it shouldn't mean that doors are closed on communication, but that's what we see so often on social media. People just click that unfriend or that block.
They sure do.
And that's what I say. If I go back to what I said earlier, I never, in the context of racists, I will never give up on a racist, because if you shut down the conversation, well, you're definitely not gonna. They're definitely not going to change that.
I ain't gonna lie. I'm not gonna say I would never give up on a racist. I'm not even gonna lie about that. Like, if it's that ain't my approach. Yeah. But I get what you're saying. Like I'm
not gonna chase him down. I'm not gonna chase him down and say, "Come on, man, let's keep talking." It's not that.
Bro, because I won't even. You see those memes about what's her name? Shit, I'm in my mind today. Harriet Tubman.
Yeah.
They say some even black people, some brothers just gotta go. You know what I'm saying? The ones that don't think they chained and slaves and they don't want to be free.
Right. Exactly.
You just gotta go. I'm sorry. It
It's
just gonna thwart the movement.
But
I get your point. I get what you're saying, and things like. But I'll let you. But my thing is, at some point you just gotta.
Well, sure. In practical terms, sometimes the conversation has to be ended, but I will never I will never, because of intolerance, just write off a racist.
I get it.
But of course, for practical reasons, sometimes the conversation just has to be stopped.
Right.
No,
but I get it. We're both African American, and we've been in those situations. I've been in a situation where I've always mentioned this before to some people that know me personally, that I remember going to work and some white guy in the States didn't like me, and I don't like you, nigga. And I was like, I don't like you either, cracker. And then we started naming it, and then I didn't like you because of this. I didn't like you because of this. And then we end up becoming friends, actually.
There's a perfect example of the value of dialogue, the value of discussion. And if that discussion is not had, well, then for sure there will never be any kind of reconciliation or any kind of cooperation going forward. So the conversation, I'm always ready for that conversation to be had, always. Right. And the thing is on social media, very often that conversation is misconstrued, misunderstood, misrepresented, misinterpreted. And I like having a good and I've done this several times before, where people have come in on my threads on social media, and I've invited them because I've gotten the feeling that things have been misunderstood, whether it's between me and that person or between that person and another person on my thread. And I've invited them to have that broader conversation on my podcast. And most of the time they don't want to do it. And that makes me wonder about the strength of their conviction. That makes me wonder about the how solid is their logic then?
For sure.
For
sure. Yeah.
It's just different online as opposed to speaking to someone directly.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong, we could have had it online. I was like, the way some things I'm gonna say, right? At that minute, I was like, so I'm bringing some of the stuff out right now.
Sure.
But sometimes I'm like, let me hit you mano a mano private, and let me just talk about
and I
a
appreciate
few things,
that.
and then I was like, we can go online, what I'm saying, because I definitely wasn't gonna cancel. I was gonna, come to you. But anyway, back to the work that I'm doing. I can get back to the Jane Elliott, but the hatred, the vitriol. Definitely that was hardcore at times. And so then I was like, I don't know, I was feeling kind of, and I was like, literally it was at one time, especially when they had the Soldiers of Odin. That was one time too. Did they reach out
to you?
I believe some of them did, because when I start hitting on the Soldiers of Odin, I was like going hard. And then literally it was like 20 people or 40, at a time, like hitting dislikes. It was crazy. I was like, oh, this is like a setup. And they were going through other videos and things like that. And so I was like, they're trying to really tarnish my shit. And so that's And so I just kind of like left it, and I was like, but because at the time it was in like I said, now, I wouldn't have minded if there was other people speaking out, because then they could have had it could have spread the hate a little bit. I ain't gonna lie, you know what I mean? So I was kind of like by myself, like I said. So being a pioneer, the only one on your lonely doing it, that's where they, as far as YouTube, and so you had people all over, not only Norway though, but there were. But I had a lot of positive things, though. A lot of positive things, like brothers thinking about moving out here.
Yes.
The first little break, I can tell you, I ain't gonna say break, but there was a person, and he probably subscribed to me, but some of his followers are. I think the first person who kind of had like an endorsement or whatever was a guy named it was Jedi. He had at the time about 16 to 20,000, maybe more followers.
Yeah.
I don't know if he was out of LA or something. It just suddenly I got this message saying, "Hey, brother, I like, what you're doing or whatever, and he was telling his people like this guy's like he's all out there by himself, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like and I made a video, and then so we got some of his subscribers to come to my channel. So that was one of the earlier times, along with the griot, but I didn't do anything with her. And then there was the media that came in during the same time that Jay Leno came that year with Nobel Peace Prize. When he came, the media reached out to me and said that they wanted to interview me. And I was like, okay, but I got the message. I didn't do that because I got the one thing my ex-wife was supposed to do was supposed to be in charge of paying the damn internet bill. And that was the one thing that she didn't do that weekend. And my internet was off, bro. And so come Monday or Tuesday, they cut it on. And I reached back to them and said, yo, yes, definitely. Like she called me, like the messages were like, hey, I'm here. Did you hit me? I mean, hit me back. And so she hit me like 3 or 4 messages. And freaking about time I hit her back, she said, we're already back in the States.
Oh, man, that's terrible. What an opportunity that would have been.
There's an opportunity. Then there was an expat group where there was this Turkish guy. I think he at the time he worked for Telenor or something. He was like in charge of he was asking me to come speak. I was like, bro, have you heard me talk, man? Why don't you find somebody more articulate? You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think they want to hear. No. We want you, because they saying stuff. They talk. We hearing everybody talk the same way. We like how you just tell it straight.
Well, you have a style.
No varnish. You know what I'm saying? So I was like, really? But I was like, really? But then I was like, he actually invited me twice to some, I forget which expat group. It was a large following. He said, so.
But you wouldn't turn these things down today, would you?
No, not today. Yeah. Not today. And like I said, that was one part of it. Another part of it, I had, I was like, am I good enough? And all these things. And then another part of it, I had the little family, and I was in Setter. It was a 45-minute to an hour. I wasn't living in Oslo. Yeah. So like all these other people, I was chopping wood, bro. I was shoveling snow. Not like some of these Americans. They don't even experience Norway. They was like, yeah, it's kind of like America. It's like,
depends on where you are. Depends on where you are.
I'm out in Oslo for the most part. They were like, yeah, it's pretty similar to America,
Yeah, they just don't know.
Outside of U.S., I was like, not here, bro.
They just don't know.
I'm in Norway. I'm chopping wood. I'm doing stuff I've never did. I got fireplaces and stuff like that. For the most part, I'm talking about the people in Oslo. So some of them got kind of spoiled. Yeah, they never had that experience. And so at the same time, I didn't feel like rushing and going all the way down there for this thing that I didn't have the confidence in doing, and wondering why the hell this guy and then I even got some weird one. I had some, now this is all earlier now, when I only made like a couple of videos at the time, some lady from, I don't know if it's a Ukraine or something. She was part of some socialist group. Yeah. She was like, hey, can we talk to your group or the leaders of the group? I was like,
there's no group.
There's no group. You're talking to him.
I've gotten that a couple of times too, where people think that I'm part of some kind of media group or lobbying group or whatever. It's like, hey, it's just me. You're talking to the boss. You're talking to the boss, employee, janitor.
You know what I mean?
Right here.
No doubt. So those are some of the ones that I remember. And then I also remember some people, right, that followed me, like that were my followers the whole time. And then I remember when I got my like kind of first endorsement in a way from this guy that had a big subscribership. And then suddenly I noticed that when we were on a video that he had me make for his followers, when he posted it, I noticed that one of my followers or whatever then made a comment talking about that he's that I'm not the only black person in Norway. He's not the only one. I'm black and I live in Norway too. And I was like, I thought that was so weird, because I was like, you followed me See what I'm saying? I'm trying to tell you. Like, I remember shit. So I was like, you follow me this whole way. You never really had any conversation. And then finally, when I got, endorsed by somebody, and he posts a video of me on his channel, then you're gonna tell this guy, hey guys, look at me. Yeah, I'm black in Norway too. And I'm like, then do the work. Like, do something then. I was like,
well, what does that mean? What does that mean, do the work?
Meaning, if because I'm trying to go off of what he was trying to, if you're saying that you want to be, because I imply that he's saying that, look, I'm black too. Like, look at me, holler at me. So I was like, bro, talk about it. You know what I mean? Yeah.
But there's a lot of people out there that are talking about it, but they just aren't talking about it from the YouTube platform.
Right. Definitely. Well, I mean, back then now, let's context back the true. And that's what I meant though. That's what I meant, because obviously he went on social media, but he waited till this guy endorsed me, and then he says it on his, as if I was like, I thought that was just the strangest thing. It was like, okay, yeah, but like, good point. There's a lot of people talking about it and doing that, not just on YouTube, but back then, for example, but back then, now you can say that, but back then, when I first started, we're talking about 7 years ago. So there was only a very small amount on social media, period. I was talking about.
Yeah, but again, there's other platforms besides social media and YouTube. That's what I'm saying. There's black Americans out there.
I know.
Yeah.
But I'm saying he was using his social media to voice that he was the only one. So in that context, then use your social media to let people know what you're going through. Right. And then maybe somebody will contact you. So that was my main point. But absolutely.
But social media is so powerful. Some people know how to use it properly. Some people don't care to use it. And I put it in air quotes. They don't care to use it for anything other than, entertainment or to stay in contact with friends and whatnot. But given the fact that racism is prevalent throughout the United States, it has its ugly face here in Norway as well. What do you think of Black Americans in Norway who are not speaking out about racism here in Norway?
I about racism in Norway? Yeah. Or just racism in general, or racism
in general, or in Norway, or just racism back home, or all the above?
Well, me personally, I can respect people that I like people that speak against things that they see that are unjust. That's just me, naturally. But I don't have a disdain for the people that don't.
Okay.
Is there a prerogative at the end of the day? I think that every person, black, white, Indian, whatever, should speak about anything that is unfair or unjust. Doesn't necessarily mean that they have to. Some people that they might have jobs that they're trying to protect, and families, different various reasons. Some people may not have the courage to do it. Just like when, just like when in real life, when somebody's being attacked or something like that, somebody that's standing around may not have the courage to step up and defend that person. I mean, that's just how it is. So I don't really have me personally, I would wish that there would be more people would, I definitely don't.
Yeah, that's kind of how I look at it as well. I wish that more people were more vocal about it, but I cannot expect everyone to say the things I say. I can't expect everyone to say the things you say. Not that activist.
especially people of color. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Because we're going through it already here.
Sure.
So
sure.
to put more of a target on our back in a way.
I had I had a previous guest tell me that they don't feel that it's their job to educate people on the ills of racism, and I understand that.
I heard that approach. Absolutely,
I understand that.
Yeah,
I do,
and I understand that. I understand that too. Yeah, definitely do. I've heard that. But then again, like I said, I see other groups. Sometimes there's groups that are white people that are educating other white people.
Yes.
On racism.
Yes.
And sometimes what I notice is those people are more effective than the people that are white trying to jump into these mixed groups. And
I have a theory about why that is. What do you think?
Well, let me finish this and remember that thought, because I want to hear that. What I've noticed, there's a lot of groups that there are some groups that are, well, I can tell you my damn theory. My theory is most of the black groups that are flourishing has white people in the administration or in charge of those groups. Straight up, that has most.
You talking about here in Norway or in general?
In Norway, Norway.
Yeah.
Most of the Facebook groups or groups that have, like, you know, any anti-racist group that has some large following, for the most part. Or let me put it this way: fuck just anti-racist group. Any black group, any group with black people that are flourishing, that has a lot of people that are actually doing things that are moving the needle. They have white people in the you know, in the controls. And if they're not, then they have to be divided within language or cultural group. They only allow like Kenyans, like a Kenyan group, a Nigerian group, or a Gambian group. Now those will have thousands of people.
Yeah. Because
they're you know what I mean? But anyone talking about black, when it encompasses everybody, and then also if it's anything encompassing everybody, it has to be party, like Afrobeat party or entertainment. They will allow those groups. They will allow those people, you know, Afrobeat or Scandinavian.
But when you say allow,
dance,
when you say, first of all, let me ask you this: when you say groups, are you talking about groups just on social media?
No, I mean social media or whatever.
Because there are
not just social media.
Because there are anti-racist groups who are both organized and led by people of color.
They got
without white people in the administration. There are.
What group?
The African Student Union, for example.
Student Union?
African Student Union, yeah.
Besides Student Union? Besides students?
OMOD, in Norwegian, Organisasjon mot offentlig diskriminering, run by a black man.
Okay, but like I said, you have to really look at the inner workings. Who's on the high part of the?
I just have to push back. I have to push back a little bit against that.
I got you.
And I know some of those organizations have white people in the administration and in the leadership. Yes, but those are the two that come off the top of my head that aren't actually run by white people.
And I would entice you to look around and really check it out. And so why do you think that is? Why do you think that is then? That there's so many white people in the administrations of these groups. What groups are you talking about, for example? Let me name some. Damn, you want me to name them, bro? You want me to name them, bro?
I'm trying to learn.
Let me see. I gotta look on the phone, bro.
I'm trying to learn.
See, there's some black groups right now that are ran by black people, but they're not that big.
Well, there's not that many.
Then you'll have the Den Norske Afrikanske Kulturforening.
Yeah, the Norwegian African Culture Union. Yeah.
The anti-racist front,
the anti-racist front,
right? In all those groups or whatever.
Well,
who I had a weird conversation with as of recent.
Yeah.
I don't think the guy was listening to me. He just suddenly sent me a message. Matter of fact, he suddenly sent me a message basically asking about joining.
Okay.
And then he just put a link for the Veeps, and would it be Veeps or Bankkonto? And I was like, I will check out your group, and I said, to tell you what, I'll check it out, and in 2 weeks, if I decide to join, I will let you know. And if I, that was it. And then afterwards, he said, great. Will that be Veeps or Bankkonto?
So he wasn't listening.
Bruh.
He wasn't listening.
And that got to me. I mean, it doesn't matter who it was. And I said, I was like, I told you I will check it out and listen. And I said, if I do, it will be Veeps. And then he said something like, well, he said something to
for my non-Norwegian residents, Veeps is a payment method through your mobile device.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But let me ask you. But let me ask you this though. You mentioned these anti-racist organizations that have white people in the administration here in Norway. Why do you think that is the case?
Well, I know for some practical reasons. I'm sure maybe they, I'm sure. I don't. We're in Norway. That's one, and so that they can kind of. They're movers and shakers. They can probably get things done. Sure. And things like that.
So that would be a good thing then.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. But I've seen that there were cases that, and I'm trying to remember because I even talked about some of the cases. I remember one time they had something about some area up north or in the west where they I can't even remember, bro. I made a video on this like a long time ago. Yeah. And I was taken back with some of the quotes that the director had said. I don't know if they call this area like Nigger Valley or something like that. I forget what area, and just the way that they responded to the situation. Yes, you can tell without a picture, just reading the text, that it couldn't have been of course a black person, but a person of color that addressed the situation. Well, I think some of these groups, I think some of these groups mean well, but I think that, and I'm just asking, I'm not disagreeing with you about the fact that there are white people who are in the leadership of these organizations. But I was about to make a point about the leadership with this one anti-racist guy, because after he did the bank count or whatever like that, I told him, I said, what was the conversation? I said, I can look at it right now, man. But I basically told him that, no, he said, I said, I told you I will look it up or whatever, and it would be by Veeps or whatever. And then he said, then he right after that said, well, don't you think that it's better to be together than by yourself or whatever? I was like, sometimes, but sometimes not. I was like, sometimes I said, brother, you don't know if I want to start my own group. Right. And things like that. I said, maybe. I said, you don't know if I want to start my own group. And I said, regardless, even if I decide not to join your group, we can collaborate. And then you know what he said right after that? He said, deep vogue. Your choice, in other words, in English. Bruh, yeah. I don't want to say the name. He's on my Facebook friend. I don't even want to say the name. See, and that kind of lines up with with what I was going to say about, some of these groups that have that are anti-racist groups and they have white leadership, white administration. They mean well and they do well, but they could do better if they would insert some people of color in that leadership and in that administration. Right. That's where some of these organizations are going wrong. And also told them, because some people have the tendency to believe that they have a monopoly on anti-racism work, Exactly. And there's so many different ways to approach it. At the same time, I've seen groups that I admire that work well. Like I don't have any, like I said, there was one group that were like, I think they're Polish or whatever, Polish descent, and they're doing about racism, talking with white people. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. About racism or whatever. White people talking to white people about racism, and it seems like they move the needle. I mean, it seems like that thing is working better than. And I have a theory. Yeah. Go ahead. And my theory is this: that there are some white people who are just not ready to talk about racism
with people of color. It's too uncomfortable for them.
Well,
I would like to.
In one sense, they can't understand it.
I would like
not
for
being a victim of racism makes you. It's really.
I would
tough
like for white people to stop inflicting themselves, and this is self-inflicted, this thing called white guilt. Stop feeling guilty and just listen and activate yourself. That's what I would like to see. I wish that concept of white guilt would go away, because white guilt holds a lot of white people in this stasis, in this non-movement, this non-discussion, this non-action state of being. Right. Because they feel too guilty. They're too sensitive about the issue. And my thing is who has permission or who should be the most sensitive about all things racism? People of color. Yeah. I would like to see white people just remove white guilt, because it's holding them. It's holding them at parade rest, if we can use a military term. Right. And they need to get active, because it's kind of like what I saw, my observation anyway, of what happened, starting last summer with all the people back home in the States out in the street. What I thought was a beautiful thing to see was so many white faces out there marching. You talking about the
BLM, Black Lives Matter protest, right? Yeah.
It showed me that at least in that moment, there's some research that has been done and a few facts that are coming to light now that show that maybe white people are not as ready to tackle racism as we thought they were. But at least at that time last summer, I was surprised to see that many white faces in the crowds. The crowds were overwhelmingly white. And to me, that showed that maybe now they're ready to have the discussion. It's a little too early to tell if it's going to last, but at least at that time, I had this feeling that maybe back home, white people back home were ready to have this conversation and actually do something.
Right. Yeah. Right.
Which was a turnaround. That had never been seen before.
Yeah. That's true. That's true. And we'll see how
it goes.
That, yeah, for sure.
We'll see how it goes, So this thing with white people in leadership, I'm all for white allies. I'm all for white folks who want to be involved. I'm all for that. I support that 100%. But when it comes to certain organizations, I do believe they would be much more effective if they would insert some blackness into their leadership. There you go.
And that's basically what I told the guy. I said, when it comes to allyship or collaboration or things like that, I would like to see, them in leadership, ownership, and things like that. And that's just what it is. And because
I want to see you on the national media. I've talked to a lot of people about this. There are not enough black and brown skinned men who are being able to speak from that national platform here in Norway, whether it's on TV, radio, whatever. There's not enough.
They cherry pick the ones that they want to throw out there. You know what I mean? That's
cherry pick. I don't know that I would use that term. It goes back to what you said. People have to do the work, and of course, some people who are doing the work are still not being seen, and that's my issue. People like you, like I say, I would love to see you on that national platform.
When one talks about or believes in systemic racism, then you don't believe in tokenism and cherry picking and certain things like that. It coincides with each other.
So was I a victim of tokenism then when they had me on? Wow, silence.
No. Hold up. They I'm not going to say that, but
say what you want.
I'm going to say that let's just put it this way, be straight up. If you didn't have the experience of you being a cop, you wouldn't have been on there, bro. If you wouldn't have had the experience of being a police officer and talking from that perspective, and then they seeing, oh, we got an African American police officer or a former police officer and things like that, and then you had all the memorabilia and shit to show them the proof and all these things like that, you wouldn't have been on there, bro.
I hear what you're saying.
Do you agree?
No, I do not, because I've been on national TV, both on NRK and TV2, and they haven't asked to see. They haven't asked to see my memorabilia.
But what I'm saying, what was the subject about though when you were?
The subject has been the death of Ahmaud Arbery and George Floyd. The subject has been systemic racism in the United States and in Norway. The subject has been my podcast. The subject has been the death of my son from a heroin overdose. And then up in all of that, up in all of that, part of that, especially most recently, is the fact that they seem to think that because of my time as a police officer, it's an interesting mix to have that experience, but also to have experienced racism firsthand. Right.
Don't get me wrong. I believe because you've done a lot, from the comedy work, and then the death of your son, and other subjects. You know what I mean? The music and all these things like that, because you're African American out there being active and all these things. But I believe when it came to the George kind of Floyd thing, that you definitely, and like you stated, you've been on the media before, but you've been here almost 20 years. I've been here 9 years.
Yep.
And I told you that when I started getting noticed on the 7.5 years ago, you were here about 19, 20 years, and then you're talking about some podcast you only started about a year ago.
You're not dissing my podcast. We're not comparing each other. We're not comparing each other.
No.
Because I've had media appearances before last summer with George Floyd as well. No, that's not my first media appearance. But no. I didn't say, because when you mentioned it, yeah.
You were saying
it sounded like you were comparing our resume.
brother. No. I was trying to say that. Well, I thought you were talking about kind of as of, I don't know, recent or whatnot. That's kind of because let me rephrase. I believe that it was because of kind of the police, they
sure that was part of it.
Of course, they found other thing interesting, but I think
that was part of it. Yes,
that was the one that was like, let's get this guy or whatnot. But anyway, I don't want to go too much.
I just want to know. I'm just wondering what you mean by cherry picking. Because they choose, I didn't say they cherry.
I think because when I say cherry picking, I didn't say that they cherry picked you, but you had to throw yourself in the mix. You said, so do you think that I'm a token or whatever? So
you said cherry picking and tokenism, but you said cherry picking and tokenism, and that almost makes it
tokenism exists.
But
correct?
Of course it does, but that almost makes it sound like that any black person who gets to speak from that platform.
No.
Okay, so
that doesn't mean everybody. I don't think every black person that gets to speak on a largest national scale is cherry picked or tokenized, because you can tell some were very authentic. They were like, man, they didn't know what the hell they was doing when they got this guy up here, because it ended up doing more damage to white supremacy racism than they expected. So I didn't say that because you said some things that surprised me. I was like, shit, this motherfucker came on here and said Norway actually experienced racism.
Yeah,
way more. Yeah, with a smile on his face and shit, and you know what I'm saying. And yeah, so I didn't say you. That's what I'm saying. So let's you had questioned if I thought you were tokenized, yes. and I was just thinking, but no. But if you were to ask me personally, I don't think you were tokenized at all. But I'm saying if you would ask me personally, what I think that had a big part.
Sure, absolutely.
Of it. So
me being a cop had a big role.
Am I right about that though?
me being a cop played a big role. It's a big reason for why. That's a big part of my background. Yeah.
That's all I was trying to say. So I believe that played a major role in that, because I believe they were looking for somebody to have because I've heard about them in several groups. They were saying, hey, they were announcing that if somebody has a experience in raceism, let us, in our code is looking for yada, 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 yada.
Oh, and really? They're actually, okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah. I've heard that. Mm-hmm. And
did you raise your hand?
No, I didn't submit anything. I didn't submit anything.
Wait, are you talking about, there's an NRK journalist, a lady who is looking for people who have experienced racism.
Yep.
I have a bone to pick with that lady, because she wanted people to hold it to 5 minutes of conversation or less on a video that they would film. And I think that's insulting, because how can someone
I got a bone to pick with her too a little bit, but it's something different.
Because my thing is, how can a person sum up their experience with racism in Norway in 5 minutes or less? To me, that is, what she should do. I mean, she can do whatever she wants, but what would be more effective is to have an entire portrait that is focused on that person's experience with racism. But a 5-minute video from which they're going to pluck out little pieces, I don't think that's right.
I agree with you, brother. And there's things that I noticed with her group, and then something personal when I reached out to her about something. It just too many things that kind of didn't sit well with me, and like I said, and she has a lot of family members doing things, and I'm like, are you really? I have my own take on that group. So and there's a reason why there's only so many people in that group as well, because Black people know. I mean, they notice things. If it's not, they notice things. Well, here's so it doesn't even. So it. And I don't think, she had got Robin, the historian. Robin, damn it. I'm forgetting all these last names and full names of these people that written when Africa ruled. Robin Williams, I think. Robin Walker, Robin Walker. Okay. The Black historian man, he calls himself, out of the UK. I think at one point she paid for a webinar or whatever. Oh, yeah. So she kind of got a big name in the space, and it didn't seem like it got that much traction. And
I think she means well. I think she means
well, and things like that. And I think herself, she was an ex journalist and things like that.
Yes.
So I was like, she was an ex journalist. She should have more clout. Now you learned the word today. She had more clout than that. It just didn't. I was like, it didn't. I see
what you did there.
It didn't translate. It didn't translate. So well on the
clout chasing. I see what you did. You snuck that in there. Clout chasing.
Right.
I still don't really understand what clout chasing is.
Chasing for the fame. For the fame.
That's not
for the likes.
There are some people. There are some people who do that. Absolutely.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. I'm not saying you like a Tekashi 6ix9ine, or nothing like that.
No, I'm not a clout chaser by any means.
And I like to be more like the Kwame Brown. They that gives a little of his mama's cooking.
That's right. You
know what I'm saying?
No, I'm not a clout chaser by any means. I say what I say, and people can agree or disagree, like or unlike, follow or block. Yeah. I just say my thing.
I got you.
Yeah.
I got you. And as I get to know you more, I'm realizing more and more that, like I said, like you said, we haven't had that many discussions. It was only on. We never spoke, never heard each other's voices.
Yeah, and that's not
never
the way.
Seen each other like we did. It was only through dictation, through short messages.
I hope you understand that when I contacted you to come on this podcast, there was no hidden agenda. It was a genuine curiosity.
Right.
I'm like, hey, I haven't heard about this guy in 3 years. The last time I left him, it was through a rough discussion on a stupid Facebook group. I want to know, and then I see what this brother's doing. I want to talk with him. That's it. That was the motivation for me asking you on.
And I realized that, and I was like, and I always thought you was a good person, by the way.
Thank
I never thought you were like
that's my mother's fault.
Some demon, bro.
Thank you.
Yeah. But then also I learned that I didn't know you were a police officer. I know you did the powerlifting, and I know you did the stand-up comedy and things like that. You've been here for a while and all these things, but I didn't know that you were a police officer or whatnot. And so it kind of made sense as I look back during those about half a year or less I was in that group. of some of the points that you were trying to make. You were coming from another perspective in a way.
Sure. Sure.
And I was coming from a different perspective, and so it definitely makes sense. And let's just say that you told me too back then that you some of the music that you had coming home, and so I knew that as well. Yeah. But like I said, the thing about you being a cop, it made sense. Let's just say, and things like that. But I don't want to say I pigeonholed you a bit.
You did. You did.
yeah. And my apologies for that. No, but and we still will have disagreements, and still do have disagreements. Sure. But as I heard you talk to people, and like I said, I told you that straight up. I'm just out of me and you, the social, if we're like a basketball team or a team or a company, a group, I'm sending your ass out there to talk to these people. They don't want to send my ass. You know what I mean? It's either you get what you get from me, bro.
Well,
like, real talk. So with you, you're more of the, you know how to cozy them up a bit, a lot more. You're more articulate than I am, and you know what I mean? So I'm
I hear you, but it's not about cozying.
I believe you're a good guy. So I never thought that you, even though we had the flack, the thing we had, disagreements and all that, I never thought that you were just an intentionally bad person. I knew that you were. I just thought maybe, like I told you before, maybe it was something that is it me, or is it my type?
I think all it is,
that's what I was thinking. It wasn't my type.
But again, my view on social media is that it's a great platform. You can learn a lot. You can spread a lot of joy. You can be funny. Right. You can profile yourself, but it's a horrible format for really, truly having discussion and debate with people. It doesn't work because so much nuance is lost. So I don't look at our thing that we had in that stupid group as any kind of a spat or anything like that. It was a few threads on a few different posts where we strongly disagreed, and that was it. Throughout all of that, I was never mad. I was never angry. I never thought you.
But see, I'm gonna keep it real. The funny thing is, you say that now after years later. You know what I'm saying? And look, looking back, you say that now, but back then, we had an exchange of words. It seemed like it was
just words. But there's
more. No, I got you.
Yeah, because I can say I can smile and laugh and say, "Oh man, I can't stand you," and then you'll laugh too because I'm being funny. But that disappears when you're just writing.
For sure.
And that's why I say social media is a very weak platform when it comes for truly. I mean, you can exchange ideas, but can you truly exchange the feeling and the intention behind what you have written? I don't think it's possible on social media.
Right. Because I was, what I was thinking when he first reached out to me, I was like, I know this motherfucker did not want to do that. He was reluctant as hell. He probably told his wife, "Damn it, he's in the space." You know what I'm saying?
No, quite the opposite.
I'm reluctant to talk to this.
Quite the opposite.
I don't want to.
Quite the opposite.
I'm like, I'm gonna keep on working. I'm gonna make you.
No, quite the opposite. When I saw your videos, a big smile hit my face. And then I clicked on, I can't remember which was the first video, but I clicked onto, I watched maybe 15 minutes of it. And then I went back the next day and saw that you had Jane Elliott. And I said, this guy, I got to talk to Robert. I got to get him to come on. I want to have a conversation with him. So it was admiration and respect from the get-go for me because you're out there and you're doing good work. Period. That's it. To be honest, I don't know how it's affected you, but I do believe that you are much more affected and preoccupied by that discussion that we had 3 years ago in a political group. I do believe that. Yes.
Back then I was. Back then I was. Yes. Now I'm being more impacted by our
exactly. And that's that's my point.
Because you got me beat by a few years or whatnot, and also you have more experience out here than me. And like I said, you got the full on podcasting, and you got things that I can learn from and perspectives.
Well, thank you for saying that. But I definitely can learn from. I am learning from. I have learned from you. I haven't had Jane Elliott on my podcast, so right there,
right.
There's something to learn from.
I think you're doing it. I think you're doing it more. I mean, to be honest, I'd rather do it the way you're doing it. Fully, because you have the now you got the video. Because I think when you started, you just only had audio.
I've only had video since January, so everything else was audio before that.
And I'd rather do it the way you're doing it, to be honest. But it is what it is. So I
think podcasting is, to me, the ultimate.
It's time consuming.
It's very time consuming, but to me, it is the ultimate platform for expression and exchange of dialogue and ideas.
I agree with you.
People relax, people talk, and magic happens.
Podcast. People think I got a podcast. Your podcast, I'm like, it's not really a podcast, but yeah.
But it's definitely a forum where people can learn. So, like I said, I'm telling everybody who's listening or watching right now, go to your channel. Tell them the name of your channel again.
The Real Nordic Black.
There you go. Straightforward. And that's not the. That's not the. That's the. That's DA. The Real Nordic Black. And I want people to go there because there is knowledge there. There's experience, and there is definitely something to learn. And if you get provoked, if you don't agree, that's beautiful. That's great. That's a good thing. That's what leads to the thought process.
That's exactly, and that's and I try to draw these controversial conversations that. Try my best that I see in these different groups or spaces that Black people have or struggling with, and try to bring the experts per se and ask them or bring up these questions and see what they say, things like that. So that's one approach. And, go ahead.
No, go ahead, please. Go ahead.
And then of course some things personal to me as well that I would like to know. Sometimes I just kind of
curiosity
reach out to that. Yeah, definitely. And then also people that are, of course, relevant to the conversation. Every now and then, I'll try to bring something that I see that people aren't used to seeing,
again, you're doing the good work to wind things up. Because I did want to ask you more, just out of my own personal curiosity. I wanted to ask you more about Jane Elliott. What you felt, because that woman is a legend. People, if you don't know Jane Elliott, shame on you. But it's easy to fix. Just type in Jane Elliott, and she spells her last name Elliott. Jane, Jane. I beg you, please, if you don't know about her, go on YouTube, type in her name, and just watch. But how did you feel during and after that conversation? It had to be motivating. Had to be.
Definitely. I mean, I love her. Like I said, I love her candor and honesty, and just the way that she's hilarious too, and in her wisdom and just the experiences that she had. I try to soak that in because she's been doing it since the '60s, man. And it was like, I was like, wow, I actually got Jane Elliott right here. When I was talking to her, and and I'm like, man, I'm glad I got her. Before, because she's up there in age, in her 80s. And so, I feel honored, man. And, that's something that'll be in the books for me. You know what I mean? I had that experience. I try to learn from her, and also, you see, reverence to her, people that and then also there were a couple of people like some of her stuff is outdated, or her approach is a little outdated or whatnot, but you never have to agree with anybody 100%, things like that, but I still appreciate that moment. So that was probably so far that was my
is that your top guest so far?
That was my top guest. For me, Karakuni, the Egyptologist, as well.
That's it. It was with Karakuni. That was the first episode that I watched, but I only got about 10 minutes.
And I was hella nervous.
And I only got like 10 minutes into that conversation, but that is another legend, another modern day legend.
Let me tell you one. One, because she talks about Egyptology and she's not scared to speak her mind as well, and she was one of the first ones. I was one of her first followers when she popped up on YouTube, and I could tell she didn't know what she was doing on YouTube, because her subscribership was so low.
Yeah.
But I was like, damn, you getting some genuine, some authentic stuff from her. And then what took the cake was what was when Chad Boseman,
yes,
from the Black Panther died, she had tweeted something, and I caught wind of it, and I was like, what? And she said that she she was an instructor at an HBCU, which I also was. I went to a historical Black college university, Langston University in Oklahoma, for a couple of years. Anyway, so she said I didn't know that, and I said, oh, it makes sense. And then she said that she also was, the teacher, instructor for Chadwick Boseman for a little bit, and she had to look back, and she had got this paper that he has written in the year 2000, which I got, that got it, man. If I show you, bro, he was already conscious way back then. He was asking her questions if the Egyptians were really Black, and he was already understanding himself, she said, way back then.
Yes.
And he written a play. It's amazing.
Wow, that's amazing.
In the year 2000, when he was in undergrad, and it already used like Egyptian hieroglyphs and characters and things like that of a play. So he was the guy was already.
But you said something about her YouTube numbers were low. Doesn't she have a podcast? She has a podcast, doesn't she? That's an audio podcast.
Yeah, that one's probably more popular.
And that's the weird thing with these algorithms, because you can have let's take my YouTube for example. I only have 150 followers there. I mean, I'm hitting tens of thousands on the audio side, but on the video. And I've been really trying to push people to my YouTube, but 150, that's it.
Got you. So it's weird. Like I said, I haven't really,
because she's got a big podcast. If I'm not I want to say she's got 2 podcasts, and they're doing quite well.
That's something I know she was I didn't know if she had her own. She was a part of many podcasts, or I didn't know if there was somebody running the podcast.
Yeah, don't quote me on that. Maybe she's she's part. Don't quote me on that. But I got the impression that she had a big podcast following.
Right. Yeah, me too. Because I was thinking she gets a lot of followers and looks on podcasts, because I know she was a part of there's another
podcast
lady
network or
but
something.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But anyway, you're correct. It's weird. Sometimes you can be popular, more popular on
different platforms.
It all depends, man. And also, it could depends on
I want that YouTube crowd. I've been trying to push my people there, but it's just not.
I don't know which one is more worth it. I don't know if the podcast is the future more so, but everybody, everybody's trying to do the Joe Rogan thing, where just when you do the podcast and video, you just knock it out, both of them at the same time, which everybody's
that's what I do. That's what my podcast
or the DJ Vlad things where they put them different clips, where they do different clips and shit.
I put out clips, and I have, and every episode goes to my YouTube, but also to all of the audio platforms. My wife suggested that I should cut off the audio platform at least for a while, and that will force people to go to YouTube. And I'm afraid to do that. I'm afraid if I do that, those people will just disappear.
Right.
Out of sight, out of mind.
I feel you. I don't agree with cutting off the audio.
No, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to keep doing what I do.
But I get what you're saying.
I'm just going to keep doing what I do, and eventually the people will come to the YouTube.
For sure, bro. Like feel the dreams, man.
Absolutely,
Keep working, and they will come, brother. They will come, and that's what I truly believe. Once you put in the work, and you know yourself, you know what I'm saying? Because at the end of the day, I can be like, look, I didn't really, because like when I started these interviews or whatnot, bro, I wasn't ready to be honest. It started out as me just trying to interview the African diaspora in Norway.
Yeah.
As you see me interview Benjamin, and I was going to interview Trisha and other people.
Shout out to Benjamin.
No doubt about that, man.
Benjamin also gave me a heads up about you too.
Oh, shit.
In fact, when I think about here we go. Here's the story. When I think about it, Benjamin told me that's how I found out that you had a YouTube channel. Benjamin told me.
Oh, word?
Benjamin told me. So hats off to Benjamin.
Big up, brother.
Hats off to Benjamin. Yes.
Yeah. No, he gave me a tip. he gave me some tips on some things, and I try to give him a tip on some things as well.
He's a good guy.
No doubt about that.
He's a good guy.
So I try to spread the love back to him.
Sure.
Most definitely, because when he was my first interviewee, although he was gonna technically be my second interviewee.
Okay.
The first interviewee, I'm not gonna say the name. He know who he is. And we're cool, and we're actually pretty. I think pretty kind of. I feel kind of close, and as you can be for the short time we've kind of known each other.
Sure.
And he was actually the first, and he wasn't looking for all this clout or whatever. He didn't care for all of that, but he is putting in the work or whatnot. So Benjamin is actually, he was my first one, but he was supposed to be my second one. And then, like I said, it was just supposed to be the aspirants, and it ended up, I guess because of some of the black groups, or I call I don't want to call them wannabes, but the black conscious community woke groups. And we have like pretty much like one or two out here in Norway, and and also the discussion in the conscious community worldwide that I always hear, are the ancient Egyptians, were they black? Whether the Jewish people, did the Exodus happen, or it was Jesus, blue eye, blonde hair, and all these, some of them silly, but some of them are questions that are still like wanting to be answered, or some people that haven't heard a scholarly consensus of certain subjects.
My answer to those three questions are yes, and no.
Right. So anyway, So last thing, my point was that I feel like I wasn't ready, man, for the interviews. I was like, because when I reached out to Cara Cooney, I was like, man, this is like a shot in the dark, and I don't think she's gonna hit me back. But then she was like, I'll do it. And she was like, but holla at my publicist, they'll reach out to you, boom, boom. And so once she did that, I was like, well, what should I say? Like, let's wait till I get some more interviews under my belt and get more comfortable. And I'm not ready, and I couldn't do that. So I just kind of got thrown in the mix. And then
isn't that the best way to do it?
I kept the ball rolling.
Isn't that the best way to do it? I've spoken to some people. I've spoken to some people who afterwards I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe I got to speak to this person. But
you feel me?
But leading up to that
as well. It's no do-overs.
Well, the thing is leading up to that, I always said, hey, they're just a person. They can tell me no, and I'll just move on. And you ask them, and then they say yes. Right. So it's you got to stretch out. You got to stretch out and see what happens. Yeah. Right.
Because because I see you a lot comfortable. And you have that demeanor more so than me. I'm all over, like I said, ADD, brother, and everything. But I believe that I would have probably been, more experience on my belt and calmer instead of getting these. Yeah,
I understand, but you're doing it now, and you're doing it well.
I'm trying.
You're making a presence. Yeah, well, that's the thing. As each one you do, you're just going to get better and better. Right. Can I just I just need to say something, a promotion thing to my listeners, and then I'll sign off with you. Hold on one second.
Yes, sir.
I want to thank you all for watching this episode of the Coming Home podcast with John Allen. I always enjoy myself. You know what? Forget my fans, my followers for a second. I want to say this directly to you, Robert, before I sign off. I'm glad we had this conversation. Again, this thing from 3 years ago, it didn't affect me the way it affected you, but I hope that that effect that it had on you has been softened by us having this conversation, because I have nothing but love. I have nothing but love for you. I have nothing but love for you, man.
And I want to say one thing. It wasn't nothing that I remembered it until you came.
I understand.
Up.
Yeah.
Then they came, but so I didn't. It was nothing I dwelled on the whole time or anything like that.
No, I think this conversation is proof that there can be disagreements, but there can still be a discussion. There can still be love, and I agree with you on 10 times the things that I disagree with you on. So that's what's most important to me.
Right.
Okay. Now let me say something to my to my watchers and my listeners. Okay, for those of you who are listening to the Coming Home podcast with John Allen on a podcast platform, please look in the description of this episode. Check it out, and that's where you will see how you can donate if you want to support what I'm doing. You will also see the links to Mr. Robert Gillan and his YouTube channel. Check him out as well. If you're watching me on YouTube, that's where I want you to be. You guys heard me say it earlier. I want you guys to be on the YouTube platform. Look in the description of this episode there as well. You will see a couple of links that you can use if you would like to donate. Your donations are not necessary, but they certainly are appreciated.
Absolutely.
So, Robert, thank you for doing this, man.
Thank
nothing
you,
but love and support. I'm going to spread the word to people about what you're doing. This conversation has done me well. So to be selfish, I'm going to say that this conversation was good for me.
It was good for me too, brother. It was good for me too. And everybody, like this video, subscribe to the Coming Home podcast if you haven't done that already. With John Allen.
Thank you.
The Real Nordic Black, DaRealNordicBlack, and check out the videos and like them and subscribe and whatnot. I hope this wasn't much, a lot of nothing for you guys. I hope you guys got something from this.
I'm sure they did.
This definitely wasn't scripted at all. Yeah. Yeah,
no, this is all organic, straight from the heart.
Absolutely. And I came straight in from the heat after work and after we had like a good conversation. So
I appreciate it, Robert. I appreciate you, and I appreciate the work you're doing, man. Okay?
No doubt.
You always have a place here. You're always welcome back.
I appreciate that, brother.
Robert Gillan, everybody.
Definitely.